It's read aloud time, and I have picked one of my favorite authors for today. It's read aloud. I absolutely love James Marshall. So when I read a story that I find that I love, then I find out who the author is, and I try to find more stories that they wrote. So I'm going to read you some James Marshall book. He writes a lot about George and Martha, these two friends, and he has such great words that he uses in his stories and you don't hear those words every day, and I love to try to use those words over and over again. So I'll try to point out some fun words that I like from his stories. And they're funny friends. They kind of make me laugh. George and Martha, two great friends. This is by James Marshall. So he kind of breaks the stories into a couple different little short stories. This one's called Two Great Friends. So the first story, it says 3 stories about 2 great friends. Story number 1. George was fond of peeking in windows. Isn't that a fun word, fond? That means you like something when you're fond of something. One day, George peeked in on Martha. He never did that again. We are friends, said Martha, but there is such a thing as privacy. That was a short story. Next story. Story number 2, The Mirror. How I do love to look at myself in the mirror, said Martha. Every chance she got, Martha looked at herself in the mirror. Sometimes Martha even woke up during the night to look at herself. This is fun, she giggled. But George was getting tired of watching Martha look at herself in the mirror. One day, George pasted a silly picture he had drawn of Martha onto the mirror. What a scare it gave her, Martha. Oh dear, she cried. What has happened to me? That's what happens when you look at yourself too much in the mirror, said George. Then I won't do it ever again, said Martha. And she didn't. It wasn't really nice of George, but sometimes friends aren't nice to each other. Let's see what happens. The last story, The Tooth. One day when George was skating to Martha's house, he tripped and fell, and he broke off his right front tooth. His favorite tooth, too. When he got to Martha's, George cried his eyes out. Oh, dear me, he cried. I look so funny without my favorite tooth. There, said Martha. The next day, George went to the dentist. The dentist replaced George's missing tooth with a lovely gold one. When Martha saw George's lovely new golden tooth, she was very happy. George, she exclaimed, you look so handsome and distinguished with your new tooth. And George was happy too. That's what friends are for, he said. They always look on the bright side and they always know how to cheer you up. But they also tell you the truth, said Martha with a smile. So that is one of my favorite stories, because in the next stories, you'll see pictures of George with his yellow tooth. And if you didn't read this story, you wouldn't know why he has a yellow tooth. I like this story because it reminds me of real life. Friends aren't always kind to each other, and friends are kind of they don't always do the right thing. But you know what? They forgive each other and they make up for it and they try to do the right thing. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this story, and I'm going to read another George and Martha story tomorrow. I hope you look forward to it. Remember, if you're like me and you can't get enough of reading, click on that next slide and you'll get to hear more read alouds. Have a great day.